So I want you to, this is warm and fuzzy, I want you to think about just what really irritates you. Or who you're angry with. Or what you're upset about. Or how you feel neglected. Or what didn't go your way. Or what you're disappointed about. I want you to take all of those kinds of things that weigh heavy on each and every one of us and to consider the fact that what you are attributing it to or what you're attaching it to is not that thing. It's not that person. It's not that current situation. It's not the job. It's not who didn't do what or didn't say what to you. But rather consider the fact that what it is a very old, very stale, a very stagnant belief or withheld energy inside of us that unless it is addressed, unless it is transformed or transmuted and dissolved and transcended, that what does it do cyclically? It just keeps coming back around, doesn't it? So even for those of us who may be challenged by the holiday, are you aware of how every time around this season you say, oh, I'm challenged by the holiday? So it becomes a perpetuating self-fulfilling prophecy. And do we ever then stop and say, well, I have the power to break the cycle of that? Or do we say, all of the good ones are taken? And to realize that every single time we utter something, even if we think we're joking, that the subconscious part of us doesn't know that it's joking. And we wouldn't say it if there wasn't something within us that feels that. Or I can't catch a break. And that every time we say those kinds of things, we're just reaffirming and recycling those old ideas that are very, very, very old. I mean, sometimes we even think that, oh, maybe they're a decade old. But unless you're 10 years old, they're much older than that. It's kind of like, barnacles on the side of a ship. Have you ever seen the ships that are docked in the harbor, and if they're not used and they've just been sitting stagnant in the water, that things begin to cling to the side of that? And it's kind of like our old belief systems cling to the side of us like barnacles on the side of a ship. And unless we are dutiful or even aware of the fact that what we are projecting onto other people isn't about them, that it's really about an old idea. An old idea, an old, stale, stagnant idea that is clinging to our belief system and that we haven't fully addressed it yet. And so it is mother stuff, it is father stuff, it is abandonment stuff, it is observational. It's seeing how in our family dynamic, if money was a struggle and lack and limitation was all pervasive, that we're still carrying that around with us today. And we think it's about something else. We think it's about unfair business practices, or we think it's about the failing of the government, or we're thinking it's about all of these other things, when all of those things are just effects out in the world. And what we've come to realize and understand, that effects out in the world and the way in which they influence us are directly proportional to what we feel inside. Directly proportional to what we feel inside. And so if something is repeatedly happening to me, if I even make this statement, why does this always happen to me? Clue. Bazinga, it's like, okay, what is that thing? What is that thing that is inside of us? And we start to realize that there is a wealth of opportunity for healing, or as we say, revealing, to take place within us individually. And we begin to understand that the world and circumstances and the recycling of these things are always bringing it to us at the moment when it's most perfect for us to accept it and to move on. And yet if we don't accept it, if we don't recognize it, then it just keeps circling back again and circling back again and circling back again. And the reason why I was thinking about that stemmed from actually a Christmas carol lyric, of all things. Now, when you hear about Christmas carols, sometimes our mind goes, oh, they're hundreds of years old. They were written way, way back when. This one is only 52 years old. It's the song called Do You See What I See? Do You Hear What I Hear? Do You Know What I Know? It was actually written in 1962. And it was commissioned by a married couple by the name of Noel Rainier and Gloria Shane Baker. And they were commissioned in 1962 to attempt to create or write a Christmas carol. And they resisted because they felt at the time that Christmas had become too commercialized. Imagine that. But they started to write this, and it was actually, I guess the turnaround time back then was a lot swifter than it is today. Because as they were writing this, something pivotal was going on in our world. For those of you who were alive in 1962, in the fall of 1962, something very traumatic was going on within our country. And it was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. And for 13 days, in the month of October in 1962, our nation was under high watch with regards to the fact that at any minute we might be obliterated by nuclear war. Can you imagine thinking that at any moment, everything that you see and everything that you love would be gone in an instant? That was actually happening in our world in 1962. And this couple was commissioned to write this Christmas song. So in researching it, part of them was like, well, what's the use? And the man, whose name, oddly enough, is Noel, was walking the streets of Manhattan in New York City, and he was so thunderstruck by the sorrow and the angst that this impending 13-day window of tension was creating, that as he looked at women pushing their babies in strollers, he would break down in tears and cry. And so he and his wife sat down and they wrote this song, Do You Hear What I Hear? And when I began to look at the lyrics of that, I was overcome with not only the backstory, but the metaphysical bent that these lyrics have for us. And if you know the song, it starts out with the night wind talking to the little lamb. So it's one of those songs where the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone's connected to the foot kind of song. So it starts with the most fundamental, which is nature. So night wind represents nature, the thing that's most pure, nature in its most awesome refinement. So the song starts with the communication link, starting with nature. And the night wind says to the little lamb, do you see what I see? So nature now is connecting to the animal kingdom, and it's saying, do you see what I see? Do you see the majesty that exists all around us? Look into the sky. Do you see that star? That star, which is a guidepost, which is leading us to something, as we would say in New Thought, into the area of the birth of Christ consciousness, or the consciousness that is wanting to be birthed individualized through you and I. And nature is saying, if you come, if you lead me, I will take you there. And it's saying this to the animal kingdom. Way up in the sky, this star is dancing in the night with a tail as big as a kite. This magnificent display of beauty and honor and integrity and love and genius and intelligence is right before us all the way around. So, of course, this line of communication starts with nature. It starts with the night wind. And the most receiving, the most accessible to that message would be the animal kingdom. So now the responsibility of this wake-up call is in the animal kingdom. So now who is the animal kingdom going to go to? Who's the next in the chain of command to be the most receptive? So it would be a child, a shepherd boy, or a shepherd girl, because we're in equal housing opportunity here. So the little lamb says to the little shepherd boy or girl, do you hear what I hear? So now the animal kingdom is speaking to the innocence and the purity of the child. And it's saying, do you hear what I hear? Not just do you see what I see, but now do you hear what I hear? A song, a vibration, a composition, a melody, a truth that is so big that it's above the voice, above the trees, and it's as big as the sea. Do you hear that? When you start to think about that, starting with nature saying, do you see what I see? And now do you hear what I hear? What are they referring to? Do you see the perfection that is all around you in the immensity of our world? Do you hear? Do you hear the vibration of love and the birth of that which is the infinite, the birth of consciousness around you? Do you hear it being exemplified in all that which is around you? Not the noise pollution around you, but beyond that. Are you seeing beyond the human sight? Are you hearing beyond the human ear? Can you see that? Can you hear that? And of course, that call to action has to start with something that's untainted. So we have nature, and then we have the little shepherd boy or shepherd girl. And what do we know about kids? They're fearless. So you see now, who's the next in the chain of command? They skipped the middleman. They didn't go to their parents. They didn't go to a teacher or a guardian. Now the shepherd boy goes directly to the mighty king. Leave it to a little shepherd boy to go, hey, king, listen to me. And what does that say about you and I? When we hold on to our woundings, and when those woundings are parlaying themselves in the way in which we're relating to others around us in present day, what is really wanting to happen inside of us is the nature and the purity of the shepherd boy or shepherd girl wanting to say to the adult self, the mighty king and the mighty queen, do you know what I know? Do you know what I know? Do you know what I know about the purity of you? Do you know what I know with regards to the fact that you and I do not have the luxury of a negative thought? Do you know what I know with regards to the truth and the idealism of why you are here and what you have called to do? Leave it to a child, the inner child within us, to be the purest thing, to try to get our attention in this adult form, in this mighty king or this mighty queen essence that we're parading around with, when we can't see and we can't hear and we can't know, because we're too caught up in the unconscious thing that is holding us back that we continue to project onto other people. And so the little shepherd boy says to the mighty king, do you know what I know? A child, that which is the purity of the Christ consciousness is shivering in the cold. In other words, it's being neglected if you and I do not bring it silver and gold. If you and I do not come before it and honor it. What does the scripture say? Humble ourselves like a small child. We are called to humble ourselves to the purity of the child that is within us and let the child be the thing that leads us. It's the same dynamic as letting the heart lead the mind. It was never intended for the intellect to override the heart, but somehow in our adultness, in our kingdom and queendom, we have allowed the intellect to become more valuable than the heart. And so when the shepherd boy says to the mighty king, do you know what I know? What is being referred to, I believe, in this stanza is the fact, do you understand and know the value and the importance of who and what you are? Do you know that? Unflinchingly so. And you know, it takes a child, or it takes the purity of that to catch our attention. Because I believe if the servants or the upper crust of the kingdom had gone to the king and said, do you know what I know? They would probably be locked in chains somewhere. But it took the little child to go, do you know what I know? And so the king listened, and the king was moved. The mighty king was moved by what the shepherd boy said. And so the king said to the people everywhere, listen to what I say. Not listen to what I say from a, this is my egoic self speaking, but listen to what I say. And the words were, pray for peace, people everywhere. What was going on when these lyrics were written? Cuban Missile Crisis. Pray for peace, people everywhere. Listen to what I say. The child sleeping in the night. The child, the consciousness, the purity of you and I that has been overshadowed by the barnacles that have collected themselves and have hardened our hearts and have gotten in the way of our ability to communicate and to be with other people. That child which is asleep, if we will allow it to be brought to the present, if we will give it breath, will bring us goodness and light. It will bring us goodness and light. I always loved the song, but now I love it even more. And so I was thinking about how we do that. I was thinking how in our movement and Centers for Spiritual Living, we are moving into a very bold step in 2016, and we are creating a universal theme. That universal theme is a world that works for everyone. Sit with that for a minute. If you and I adopt as our theme for 2016 a world that works for everyone, the way in which that gets implemented is through action. And I believe that what is being required of us is to not only clean up our own interior household, but to then take the purity of that, the boldness of the shepherd boy or the shepherd girl out into the world and begin to individually and collectively do our work in the world. And when I say collectively, I'm talking about us as a community, as Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. Things will be done a little bit differently with regards to service, with regards to how you and I begin to show up and bring this healing, to bring this ability to see, to bring this ability to hear, to bring this ability to know into a larger realm. And however that shows up for us, it is our call and our duty to be able and to be willing to do that. But what have we come to understand about that level of service? That level of service is only as pure and only as productive and only as sustainable as the consciousness that we individually bring to it. You ever tried to change someone else before you've changed yourself? I'll take that as a yes. And you see, hopefully we learn from that. You know, I'll always get those people who will come up and go, do you have that talk on CD? There is somebody that needs to hear that. And the last part of that, it always has this little emphatic little facial expression, you know. So, oh, I wish so-and-so was here. Boy, do they need to hear that. And what we're starting to see is, no, I need to hear. Do you hear what I hear? I need to hear that. And to the degree that not only do I hear it, but do I then absorb it? I embody it. Does it become the right and proper message for me? I was thinking about the writer James Allen. You probably aren't too familiar with him. He was a rather odd duck. He only wrote in a 12-year time frame. His story is an interesting one because his father had immigrated over to America and then was killed like the second day he was over here in New York City in the late 1800s. And so the family never migrated over. And he became interested in metaphysics and philosophy and the still small voice inside. And he began writing for in this 12-year period before he transitioned. And people say that there's not much about him, but they say he was otherworldly. In other words, it was almost as if he wasn't here. He wasn't fully existent. That there's something very different about him. And he churned out all of this voluminous material that was just so powerful between 1901 and 1912. And here's the very first thing he ever wrote. You probably know him because he wrote As a Man Thinketh. That was his second book, but this was even before this book came out. He said, "It is not sufficient to deny or ignore evil." And the word that you can substitute for evil is the word error. It is not sufficient to deny or ignore error. Think about that for a moment. When we want to deny or ignore error, the error within ourselves or the error that we are projecting onto other people, what are we doing? It's the same thing as the barnacles on the side of the boat. We're like wondering, going, why is it I can't fit into this dock anymore like I used to? It's because all the stuff is like there. And when I want to ignore my unhealed aspect, my shadow side, what does that shadow side continue to do? To replicate itself over and over again. So he says, it's not sufficient to deny or ignore this kind of error. It must be understood. I love that. That's where you and I get to go, why am I responding this way? Why is this relationship, this antagonism, this chasm that is existing between me and this person, why is that here? If David said it's not about that person, and I would like to believe he's not full of it, then what is it about? And if we were serious, if you and I were serious and we got still, the answer would come. And we would begin to see that it is an old cellular thing that has been locked within us that is yet to be addressed. The good news is that the more that we address it, the less time span that we spend in this unconscious dissidence. You ever been in that span of unconscious dissidence? You know, go, wow, God, this has been the worst 3 years, 7 months, and 12 days that I've ever been in existence. And then when we do the work, that 3 years shrinks a little bit. And it gets down to maybe it was an uncomfortable 6 months. And then the more that we do the work, the more we shrink that down. Then it's down to a week. And then maybe we just have a bad day where we feel disconnected. But we're not lingering in the lie. We're not lingering in the disconnect. We're not lingering in the hopelessness because we are doing our work. He says it's not enough to pray to God to remove the error. You must find out why it is there and what lesson it has for you. Oh, James Allen. Oh, by the way, the very first thing he wrote is called From Poverty to Power, and it's free on the internet. Write that down. James Allen. It's not enough to pray to God to remove the error. You must find out why it is there and what lesson it has for you. How many of you care enough about your spiritual expansion and growth to do that level of work? To go, I am so willing to let this person, this company, this boss, this experience off the hook. I'm willing to let them off the hook. And to go, why? What is it in me that continues to perpetuate this pattern? Do you care enough about your experience to reclaim that? Do you see what that is? It is a reclamation of your personal power to do that. Rather than going, why does this always happen to me? Why do you think? And so when we become enthusiastic about the inner inquirer in us, then we begin to reveal that which needs to be restored. He says, it is of no avail to fret and to fume and to chafe at the chains that bind you. You must know why and how you are bound. And what's the value in that? When I know why I am bound, then I'm not bound anymore. When I know why I am choosing to find the self by holding on to the grudge, by holding on to the self-righteous indignation, by holding on to the marginalization, I'm the one then that is not being able to listen to the night wind and not be able to heal the self. And to the degree that we heal the self, then we bring that level of healing to the world. You wanna play it? Do you guys know the lyrics? Said the night wind to the little lamb, do you see what I see? Here we go. Said the night wind to the little lamb, do you see what I see? Way up in the sky, way up in the sky, little lamb. Do you see what I see? A star dancing in the night. A star dancing in the night, with a tail as big as a kite. With a tail as big as a kite. Said the little lamb to the shepherd boy. Said the little lamb to the shepherd boy, do you hear what I hear? Ringing through the sky. Ringing through the sky, shepherd boy. Do you hear what I hear? A song, a song. A song, a song. High above the trees, with a voice as big as the sea. With a voice as big as the sea. Said the shepherd boy to the mighty king. Said the shepherd boy to the mighty king. Do you know what I know? Do you know what I know? In your palace warm. In your palace warm, mighty king. Do you know what I know? Do you know what I know? A child shivers in the cold. A child shivers in the cold. Let us bring him silver and gold. Let us bring him silver and gold. Said the king to the people everywhere. Said the king to the people everywhere. Listen to what I say. Listen to what I say. Pray for peace. Pray for peace, people everywhere. Listen to what I say. The child sleeping in the night. The child Sleeping in the night, he will bring us goodness and light. He will bring us goodness and light. And so it is. Thank you very much. This is our last opportunity today for you to express your appreciation to the staff. The staff is David and Nathan and Lane and Penelope and Robert, those who help in our all of the donations that you give at this time of the year. I get to play Santa and distribute it to them on Wednesday. So they may be in Las Vegas next weekend. I don't know, but it's just a really great opportunity for them to know how much you care and appreciate them from the community, in addition to the tithes and the donations that you give to SLCA. But this particular envelope is for the staff only. And so today is the last day to be able to do that. And Joe, if you could come up, Joe Labriola, real quick. We also talked about the food drive stuff that we're participating in. This amazing man, are you the executive director? Is that your title? He's the executive director of Second Helpings, which I think is the most genius organization that exists, where they rescue food and redistribute it to people who need it. So when you donate, we're going to be able to participate with that. Do you want to say just a little something and then lead us in our affirmation for grateful giving?
Good morning. Good morning. Second Helpings Atlanta is a food rescue organization, and we have a network of about 60 food donors. So think grocery stores, farmers markets, school cafeterias, employee dining halls, and we dispatch our volunteer army of over 400 drivers on their own dime, using their own gas money, their own vehicles. They schlep from their house to the donors, to the agencies that distribute the food, and back home, and we match them with routes that they allow them to do that in 90 minutes or less, and we ask them to do it one day a month.
Do you need volunteers?
Oh, we drastically need volunteers. Thank you. That was a great cue.
Creating a line to be of service. Can you hang out for a little bit out front today?
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool.
We do about 85 pickups and deliveries a week. Last month we had a good month. We did just over 84,000 pounds of food. We'll close this year at about 820,000 pounds of food. So to put that into context, that's enough food to provide a meal for about 400,000 people. Next year, we want to make that 1.2 million pounds of food. So we've got volunteers looking for new donors. Agencies are coming to us every single day asking for our help. You can help us really make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. And I guarantee the best day of your month will be the day of and the day after you rescue food, because you know your actions the next day, somebody who wasn't going to eat will be eating. So. Okay, so if you would join me. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is.
Thank you so much. Please welcome Unknown Lyric.
Good afternoon now. How's everybody? Good afternoon. Yeah, we were here for the first service, and we're here for the second. Thank you guys, Reverend David, Ault, and Penelope for having us back. We love coming I'm Kevin on violin. This is Jeremiah on guitar, and we are Unknown Lyric. We have some fabulous Christmas CDs that we brought with us. So we kind of sold out of the other ones, but we have Christmas. So if you're into Christmas music, Jeremiah.
Good afternoon. First off, once again, thank you so very much for allowing us to be here. Just to have the ability, the opportunity to give a gift that you've been giving, that you were given to someone else, just having that opportunity is such a blessing in itself. So we thank you so very much for allowing us to be here. And also, Pastor, well, like you spoke earlier, you know, I've realized the more that we wake up and ask ourselves, who are we? What do we like? You know, what is our emotional state? Are we angry? Why are we angry? Are we sad? Why are we sad? When we ask ourselves those difficult questions, we find that not only do we make other people comfortable with doing the same, we remind other people to do the same, but we find that a lot of troubles and issues and problems we had in our life literally, you know, disappear, because we find that we could intelligently decipher the right decision before it even happened, before you even had to come up with an answer. So thank you once again, Pastor. It is an amazing blessing to play here this afternoon. It's a beautiful day. I can't wait to get in that sunlight. So we're going to go ahead and start the song. This song is called Night Train. Oh, and also thank you so much, Penelope, this amazing Fuji, and Ben in the back. They've been holding us down all day. Amazing. Thank you.
so much, guys. Yeah. Unknown Lyric.
Hi, I'm David Ault, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at slca.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.